Welcome to Mind Your Mental Health channel. This is our 14th episode. In the past episodes, we discussed about mind, different aspects of the mind. We tried to explain what is mind, where it is, and how does it function. It took about 12 episodes to explain about the mind and certain aspects of the brain. What is mind? Mind is a very abstract phenomenon. We can perceive the mind, but we can't see the mind. We can interpret from the behavior, what person thinks, what's the emotions, all these things are mind. Where does the mind belong? It belongs to brain. Certain functions of the brain are collectively called as mind. What are these functions? Perception, thought, emotions, behavior. These four functions of the brain is collectively called as mind. There are a few more things, we'll come to that a little later. So perception is a function of the brain by which we perceive the world. We have 5 sensory modalities. Through these 5 sensory modalities, we perceive information. We collect information. From the time you are born till the time you are there, we receive information through seeing, hearing, taste, touch, like so many sensory inputs come into our brain and it gets recorded in some parts of the brain. So perception is what makes you perceive, makes you collect information. Where is information? Millions bits of information is perceived and stored in the brain, in different parts of the brain in different ways. So perception is one aspect of the mind. We perceive the world. The second aspect of the mind is thinking. Thinking is a very common term. All of us know about it. All of us do it. We always think. From morning to evening, we keep thinking about many things. If I ask you what is thinking, it might be a bit confusing. What is thinking? A simple definition of thinking is, it's a flow of ideas initiated by a problem, ends in a solution. If I ask you, what are you doing now? You might tell me, I'm thinking. And if I ask you, what are you thinking? You might say, I'm thinking about thinking. Then I will ask you, was this thinking was there about half an hour ago? No. When did it come? When did it start? When I asked you a question. So that is a problem I threw at you and you started having thinking. So what is happening in your mind? You are getting ideas, number of ideas which is flowing through. And this idea started when I gave you that question. And it will stop when you find a solution. Suppose I'm asking you what is thinking, then you're thinking, what is thinking? Have you read somewhere? Somebody told me about this. I can't recollect it. No, I don't think I can define thinking. These are different ideas. It will come to an end when you find a solution. Now that I told you what is the definition of thinking, it might stop. It might go on to another topic. When I talk about something else, the thinking will switch to something else. That is what the thinking is. To have that thinking, you need information. If there is no information at all, your thoughts will be blank. So, perception is very important to collect information, store it in your brain. And with that information, we analyze, we recall information, we think about it. Thinking is an important function of the brain and it is also an important aspect of the mind. And this thinking needs perception so that we perceive the world, we record everything, so there is enough information in the brain so that we can think. The flow of ideas there. Okay, the third function of the brain which constitutes the mind is emotion. Emotions are essential part of human being or essential part of living beings. Emotions are basic emotions like fear, happiness, all these things are basic emotions. The fear is important because fear is the one which makes you avoid a danger or makes you move away from a danger. That way, fear is a preserving, a life preserving emotion. Like that, we have number of emotions. These emotions make what we are. Our perception sometimes comes with the emotion. I am seeing something very shocking incident and a very dastardly accident. That information, that perception, I am seeing, I am hearing what is going on, people shouting or crying. All those things goes into my brain, gets stored with that emotion. When I recall that, that emotions can come back. Or it can also trigger excessive that emotion, then that becomes abnormal. So emotion is essential for our day-to-day life, for our enjoyment, for our learning, for everything. Emotions are very important. They play a very crucial role. So perception, thinking, emotion. All these three together leads to what we call behavior. Human behavior, animal behavior depends on all these three factors. Behavior is the sum total of all three aspects of the mind. So, behavior depends on what I perceived in this world and what emotions have clubbed with that perception and what is my thinking. Suppose, as I given the example, I've seen a very shocking accident that is recorded in my memory, in my brain, with a fear response. If I think about or somebody talks about an accident, I will recall that accident which was very shocking to me. That thinking or that information will trigger a flow of ideas. And that flow of ideas will constitute thinking. And that thinking might have accompanying emotions of fear. So that's how the mind works. I'm putting it very simple. Now, it's not that simple. It's very, very complex. Okay, so we have perception, we have emotions, we have thinking, we have behavior. So these are the four important aspects of the mind. But it needs something else to work on. So it needs a foundation. It needs something primarily helping these four functions. They are called primary mental functions. They are called primary because they are the foundation. So these primary mental functions are orientation, attention, concentration, and memory. So whole process of mind depends on these foundation or fundamental functions. Orientation is awareness of self and others and other beings and the surrounding and the time period. So about everything, it roots me into one place. If I know, if I want to go somewhere else, so let's say I have an address to which I need to go. If I want to look it up on the map, I need to first find out where I am on that map. That is routing, where I am. From here I need to go there. So that is the orientation, where I am at this point in time, where I am, what is the date, what is the time, what is happening around me, and what exactly I am doing. All those things are recorded together. And orientation is to be aware of the time, the date, the place, the person, where I am, everything constitutes orientation. That is one of the foundation fundamental function. And then we need attention and concentration. What is attention? Attention is the ability to focus. I'm picking up a book and reading a paragraph. I'm reading first sentence. I'm focusing on those lines, those sentences. That is attention. I'm reading the first sentence. That means my eyes are locked onto that sentence and our brain is locked onto that. My thinking is locked onto that. That is the focus. That focus is called attention. What is concentration? Very simple. It's an ability to sustain that focus. I'm reading a paragraph. It's a long paragraph. First sentence I focused. I'm looking at the sentence, what is written there. I'm reading and interpreting, goes into the mind or the brain memory. And I keep reading, I keep going on to the next sentences. That is concentration. The ability to keep the focus on the book, on the paragraph. If I read the first sentence and look at the watch, or read the first sentence, look at something else, or talk to someone else, that means I'm not attentive. I'm not able to focus. That could become a psychological problem. So attention is ability to focus. Concentration is maintain that ability to focus so that I can complete the task in a given time. So orientation, attention, and concentration. When you have all these things, your perception becomes very defined, very clear, very strong. So everything I read goes into the brain and stored somewhere. This is called memory. So all of us have a memory which has millions of information from the time we are born. And so to make it very simple, we store the information in files probably, like we store it in a computer. So my first experience will be with my mother. The way she talked to me, the way she looked after me, the way she cooked for me, and everything about the mother is stored somewhere in the brain. Probably a file called mother. And when I need it, when I want to talk about my mother, immediately go and retrieve all the information and then talk about it or think about mother. So that is why memory is important. What we perceive need to stay in the brain. So that is memory. Memory has three divisions, three subtypes. Immediate memory, recent memory, remote memory. Immediate memory is what you need it for day-to-day work. You're asking me to ring up a service. Now, there's a problem with the fridge and I need to call a service center. And somebody tells me, this is a good center, I'll give you the number. They tell me the number, I make the phone call. I make the phone call and then I dealt with that service center and then I booked this visit and I forgot the number. I don't need that number for lifelong. If you ask me after a month time, what is that number, I may not remember. I don't need it. I don't need to remember. That is immediate memory. Recent memory is what I remember for next couple of days. What is needed for next couple of days. What did I have for last breakfast? Where did I go yesterday? What was the appointment yesterday? How many patients I have seen yesterday? And who are these patients? What happened? I might remember them for a short period of time. Otherwise, it's going to go into the record. I need not completely remember everything for my life long. Okay, that is the recent memory. The third memory is remote memory. This is the memory where we retain for probably lifelong. My date of birth, where did I study, and my education qualification, what went through in the college, what happened, all those things. Marriage, now details about the marriage, date of marriage, about my wife, children, all those details I need it for long term. And that is stored in the remote memory. Because if I have every memory for long term, my brain will be overcrowded. Like our computer disk gets overcrowded. Now computer gets stuck. So similarly, we need to classify, we need to remember certain things for long period, that is called remote memory. Certain things for recent, that is for few days. Certain things immediate, I don't need it further. So that is the memory. What we discussed today in the summary is mind has different aspects: perception, thought, emotion, behavior, which needs something else to work on. They are called primary mental functions, or they are the foundations or fundamental. They are called orientation, attention, concentration, and memory. There are a few more things like judgment, all those things are there. Abstraction, thinking abilities are different. Not all the thinking starts with the problem, ends in a solution. There are thinking, I think about something what happened a week ago, or I've seen a movie last week. I'm just thinking about it. Not necessarily it starts with the problem. So there are different types of thinking also. So to summarize, mind is a very complex phenomenon, and it can make a person or break a person. And the seat of the mind is in brain. In one of the episodes, I also talked about brain, different parts of the brain, which part of the brain deals with the mind. I also discussed in those episodes, about 3 or 4 episodes, how does the mind work, different theories or different concepts of mind working. I talked about psychoanalysis, and I talked about interpersonal communication, transaction analysis, and I also talked about behaviorism. All those things kind of gives you an idea about the mind. This channel, we are going to talk about different aspects of the mind and different aspects of the mental illness also. That's why I'm preparing my audience to understand what I'm going to talk in future. Now, this 14 episode will give you the understanding of the mind. It will also help you to understand yourself if you apply these in your day-to-day life. And as we go along, very soon we will be talking about different individual mental illness like schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, personality disorder. There are hundreds of mental illness. We'll be talking about each mental illness in one episode. So this 14 episodes will give you the foundation to understand those episodes. And I'll give you the links for the episodes relating to each aspect of the mind. And if you have time, if you think it might help you, you can always visit. And that will highlight in detail about individual aspects. For example, we have done an episode exclusively on perception. We have done one more episode on thinking. So that will give you more information, more understanding about individual aspects of the mind. If you think it is helpful, and if you want to visit us more, please do subscribe. And I'm happy to get your comments about the channel. Next episode, we are going to talk about mindfulness, which is a therapy by itself. Mindfulness therapy, but it can also, the concepts can also be used for our day-to-day life. So we are going to talk about mindfulness. Thank you for being with us. See you in the next episode. Bye.